As Nigeria's digital economy continues to expand, so too do the challenges that threaten consumer trust and online safety. New data shows that Nigeria is now the most spammed country in Africa and the 8th most spammed in the world, with more than 1 in every 2 unknown calls reportedly flagged as spam or potential fraud. And you probably can relate to this as well. Now, while many may see spam calls as little more than an annoyance or an inconvenience, experts warn that the implications run much deeper. This morning, we explore the growing problem of phone spam and fraud in Nigeria. We're looking at its implication for the digital economy and what individuals, families, and businesses can do to protect themselves. And we're joined this morning by the Director of Market Development at Truecaller, Ogo Onwuzurike. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Ogo.
Good morning.
Great to have you join us.
First of all, I think I must applaud Truecaller because I think it was when the advent of Truecaller helped us to see a number of calls before the call comes in. You know whether to pick up because you can see that red line that says spam, right? So, but for me, I just think to myself automatically, hey, spam, I'll report it. There's no big deal. But it would seem that there's a far-reaching implication.
Yes.
So please tell us about the far-reaching implication of these spam calls.
I mean, thank you, and thank you for having me this morning. But if we start to think about the far-reaching implication of spam and spam calls, first of all, from a consumer perspective and from a user perspective, the phone now becomes something that people don't want to reach out to. People don't want to touch their phone. You have people that are constantly on silent and all of that. But that is also costly to businesses, to legitimate businesses that genuinely want to reach out to their users. So you see people trying, businesses, leveraging multiple avenues to reach out to their business. So the cost of doing business is, it's become more expensive for businesses to reach their consumers. There's also that erosion of trust in communication. So it's not just, a disturbance, it's also that there are economic implications to these things where legitimate businesses cannot reach their users because users believe that they are being spammed. And then if you think of from a user perspective, when somebody is spammed or somebody is defrauded through the phone, because it is spam and fraud, think of a family and then, the breadwinner is scammed. The implication is far-reaching. There's school fees to be paid. There's money to, there's rent to be paid. So it's not just something that is to be ignored. It's a growing problem, and we need to pay attention to it.
For the sake of our viewers who might not understand the meaning of spam and differentiate between spam and fraud, could you...
Yes, it's a good distinction to make. So a spam call is a call that a user feels like this is noise, this is disturbance. I do not really
unwelcome
unwelcome calls. So you sort of see the telemarketing calls and all the bothersome calls. That is categorized as spam. But the fraudulent calls are calls that are malicious with the intention to defraud people, to take money from their pockets, impersonating businesses, impersonating people. That's the clear distinction.
Okay, now that you've explained about spam, how come Nigeria has become the most spammed country? What factors have led to that? We're seeing that, according to reports, it's now the most spammed country in Africa. Is it that we have a growing population, or I don't know, what factors do you think could maybe have led to that?
Well, I think there's also a shift in consumer behavior as to what people used to accept as normal. Before telemarketing, you just call people randomly. People do not want that. They term it as disturbance, they term it as noise. So it's now for businesses to understand, how do I communicate to my users? How do I communicate to my base, right? How do I identify myself as a legitimate business in the first place? Because if you knew, for example, that it is your bank that is calling you for the first place, you would think that this is important. And that is why positioning and branding is really, really important for businesses that are looking to reach out to their customers on a broad and a large-scale basis.
So when it comes to, of course, spam and fraud in Nigeria, what are the things that Nigerians should be looking out for from this kind of calls at this point in time? Well,
I mean, when it comes to fraud, what we see, the trends we see is that the scam and the fraud, they are getting better at what we call credibility engineering. so that when they put out that call to you, they make it sound as credible as possible. I'm calling from this institution, I'm calling from XYZ place. They make it sound as credible as possible. So on a basic level, a caller ID app like Truecaller saves you the stress. You understand what I mean? The first thing is, who is even calling me? How do I know who is calling me? And then it takes you, if you feel like taking the call in the first, you want to take the call, then you can take the call. But if you feel this is not worth my time, then you can say, and that's what we do. We make sure that we label these calls properly and all of that. So that's the first thing, people need to know. Also, you need to also understand that fraud and scam, thrives in urgency and pressure. So when you get that call and someone is saying, you need to quickly send your OTP, or there's this emergency, those are the things that you need to sort of know that these are fraud tactics, these are fraud
telltale signs.
Telltale signs of fraud.
So there's one that happened. There's one that's very, quite common to me, what I've experienced, and I'm not trying to, no disrespect to any tribe, but there's one that always happens. I always get this call from someone from the north every time. And I don't know this person from anywhere. The person I just pick up the call, I hear that language, they call again. Is that the same thing as a spam call?
Well, it could be a network glitch. It could just be a network glitch in that instance. Maybe the person is trying to, call somebody else, but there is a network glitch in this particular instance. But you also see that another thing that you need to do is also educate, because the people that are most vulnerable to scam and fraud are the older people. Think of, in your family, who could be susceptible to fraud and scam. So it's the older generation, our moms, our dads, who are not so tech savvy. And we have the opportunity to protect them even from our own devices now. So you can protect your mom, you can protect your siblings from your own devices and make sure that you see the type of calls that they are getting. If it's a spam call, you can remotely hang up the call from them from your own phone if they are getting a fraudulent call.
Now, you made a submission earlier. I would like you to deep dive into it, because you did mention the economic implication of this, and there are genuine businesses that want to leverage on, these phone calls to market their businesses, to do other things with regards to their business. How do we think of this not just as a nuisance, but an economic problem?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So the first thing that we need to understand that we are mobile first economies. A lot of services, a lot of businesses are done through the phone. So if a bank, for example, onboarding, OTP, verifications are done through the phone. So, and that's why I talked about, scammers doing credibility engineering. They follow that same pattern to sort of mirror what a legitimate business would do. So if in the event that people take over this scenarios and all of that, we need to understand as a country, what is the cost of for businesses, if they cannot reach you through the phone, they have to maybe send an email, they have to get customer support and all of that. That is increasing the cost of business and erosion of trust. So legitimate businesses cannot put themselves out there. And that's why the spam and fraud problem has to be looked at from an economic point of view. And businesses start to train themselves, train their staff. How do we communicate and how do we position ourselves properly so that the consumers do not see us as noise? That is a whole, and we support all of that with businesses.
Okay, what's Truecaller's vision for being able to solve this problem for Nigeria? And what would you say meaningful progress would look like for you in the next maybe 1 to 2 years?
Truecaller is a well-loved brand, not just in Nigeria, across the sub-Saharan African markets. We've seen great user adoption. We've seen great, adoption across the market. Our vision is to continue to make communication safe, smarter, and efficient. That is across, whether it's person-to-person communication, whether it's business to B2C communication, whether it's B2B communication. We empower the users, we empower businesses to ensure that you are who you say you are, and the public, the users, the population know exactly who is calling them and prevent people from losing money from scams and fraud. But essentially, our mission remains to make communication safe, to make it smart, and to make it efficient. That's where we sit.
All right, to make communication safe, smart, and
Efficient.
Wonderful.
Like that.
Okay, I also know that, for those of us who use Truecaller, it's now becoming subconsciously, it's becoming a default phone contact app for a number of people. Yeah. And I would say congratulations and kudos on that.
I'm sure all of us here use Truecaller.
Of course.
Thank you.
When you don't know who is calling and you're like, you just quickly see the name. Sometimes even, let me give you a little bit of expo for business. When some clients are calling me, I can just see who is calling quickly and find out, okay,
what do they want?
They probably have an event coming. I can quickly research the event. So I'm going into the call with proper information.
You're empowered, and you're empowered, and that's what we want to help you. Empower businesses, empower individuals, take the decisions you want to take once you see that call coming through.
But from a business point of view, how can customers identify when a genuine company is calling them?
Yeah, and this is one way we are partnering with a lot of businesses. We have a solution called Verified Caller ID, Verified Business. So typically on Truecaller, on the consumer side of things, if I'm calling you, it will show the blue tag, right? If a business is calling you, we have the Verified Caller solution. And a lot of banks, a lot of financial institutions are adopting it now. So it comes with the green tag. It shows you this is the bank that is calling you. This is verified. This is the institution. Some even take it as far. We take it as far as tell you why we are calling you. Oh, your KYC is there's something wrong with your KYC. Oh, this is an important call. You need to take it. So we are also empowering a lot of businesses to position themselves correctly and brand themselves rightly in the market so that they don't lose all those economic opportunities that get lost in the noise and with the fraudsters,
You don't go and decline the call of your helper.
Exactly.
Okay, so we look forward to seeing that. My question with that, so when the registered verified businesses have that green tag, what if, for example, some consumers are still upset that why is my bank calling me? Is there a possibility that they can still report them as scam, and how will that impact them?
No. So when you are registered as a verified business, of course, we would have done your KYC. We know that you're on our own side. Yeah, we know that this is a legitimate business. There is a legitimate brand. We would have done our own due diligence on our own side. So you cannot maliciously mark a legitimate business as spam. And let me speak to that spam marking, because people just think, oh, one person has to mark a number. I mean, I can be malicious and just mark her as spam because maybe I'm owing her some money and I don't want to pay and be malicious. But that's not the way Truecaller marks. It takes more than one person.
Oh, so there have been multiple
There
reports.
has to be. There's a lot of reports. There's a lot of intelligence. There's a lot of machine learning. There's a lot of algorithm. There's a lot that goes on. And it has to be from millions of people reporting that same number as scam. What you need to understand is that a legitimate phone number acts differently from a fraudulent phone numbers. The signals from the back end are totally different. So we also want legitimate businesses to thrive, to prosper, and for legitimate individuals who are just making calls to be able to pass their communication. So it's not just one person marking another number as spam and then we just know. There's a lot of intelligence that goes behind the scene before that happens.
Sounds really great. We look forward to seeing the progress that Truecaller will make in the coming years, and especially the problems that it will be solving for Nigerians, because that's a very, very needed one.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for your time with us this morning.
Thank
we look forward to having further conversations.
It was great to be here. Thank you so much.
All right. We hope that you can do what's best for you and your businesses. Ensure that you have your verification with Truecaller if you're a business, and that would help, especially those ones that used to call to ask for feedback. Please, it's not a good time to talk. We'd like to ask you about your experience.
I don't have time.
No, you should try to make time, because that will help the consumer experience.
Just call me on Sunday afternoon when I'm back from...